So for the Mechlab stations, for the electrical wiring portion of it, I'm going to explain each lab, and then we'll talk about the I/O block, and then the 15-pin serial cable that connects to your electrical station. So there's 3 stations with Mechlab. First is the conveyor sorting station. So that looks like this guy. So it's going to be this one here. So right here, this is our I/O block where you're going to be tracing down all these cables out to their I/O devices and then making the station function per my instructions here. So when a push button is pressed, conveyor rotates, moving the cap from left to right towards the electric solenoid. It's labeled SOL. For a challenge, replace the push button with the optical sensor. It's just a photoelectric sensor that reflects light back into it, detects if a part's there. If you have your hand in front of the op sensor, it'll turn on/off on the I/O block itself. You'll see a little yellow light turning on and off. Conveyor system senses metallic bases and directs them via the electric solenoid down the ramp. Metallic caps will be sensed by the inductive proximity sensor, labeled IND. Plastic bases continue to the end of the right side of the conveyor. Your task is to wire up the station with some push buttons and make it function manually. So if we understand how this thing works manually, whenever we get into PLCs, this will make a lot more sense as far as operation. So this is the tag that can be found on the station for these devices. This is a fully electric station. There is no pneumatics for this. But just because we have that solenoid on there, we actually get to see the solenoid retract in and out whenever it detects metallic parts. So you will also have to be tracking down where those are wired to, and you'll label the block terminal number here. So for the block terminal layout, so this is how it's actually wired at your station. You'll look at your pins and look at the locations. So first is we start with 1. So everything on the I/O block starts with 0. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Just because that's how binary works, they always start with 0. But good news is pin 3 on all of the pins that are on that I/O block, that's going to be 0 volt. It's already ran for you, already wired up. And pin 1, that's your 24 volts for all of these. So that's already wired up for you as well. You just have to worry about your I/O pin. So that is going to tell you where you're going to be looking at on your serial cable pinout. So at your station, you're either going to have a black cable that's got this wire color on it. It should already be in order from 1 to 15 on the terminal blocks. If you have a tan cable, it's going to be this pinout here, should be already wired in that order. So you'll correspond the pin with the I/O block I/O number, and that's where you'll wire your push buttons to. So second project is the Station 2 pneumatic pick and place. So we're not doing anything with cylinder switches at this point in time. We're going to ignore those. I don't even have them listed down here. But when your station pops up or powers up, you'll see that you have some little orange lights on. And as you move the cylinders back and forth, those reed switches are going to change state from on to off. So we're just going to ignore those for right now. But for the Station 2 pick and place operation, how this works is like this. So this is what the pick and place looks like. Again, here's your I/O block where they're all wired to. Feel free to undo the Velcro to trace them down. But you'll place a puck in one of these stations. So I have you doing it backwards from what this is. But it'll come down, pick up the puck, shift it over, and place it over on the station, then return back. So we're using push buttons to actuate each one of those solenoid valves. So push button 1 turns on your vacuum to pick up the actual cap. You'll place a cap in there manually, and then cylinder 1, which is 1M2 is how it's labeled, fully extends when push button 2 is pressed. Cylinder 2 fully extends when push button 3 is pressed. Cylinder 2 extend is 2M2. You'll turn on the vacuum to pick up the cap by pressing push button 1. Once the cap is suctioned, cylinder 2 retracts. When push button 3 is pressed, after cylinder 2 is fully retracted, cylinder 1 retracts. When push button 4 is pressed, to place the cap in the drop location, you're just going to use your push buttons to drive it there. So again, your task is to get it to function for 1 through 8. I got it labeled down here what the device tag is at the station, what the actual device is, and then you record where it's wired to, where that cable is going to on the I/O block. The station 3 cap press station, that is the last one here. So that is going to look like this. It's got a destacking magazine chamber, which is this guy. And this cylinder here extends out, pushing a base onto your station. You'll place a cap in there, and then this top cylinder comes down and presses it all together. Not shown in this video, there is a third cylinder, the eject cylinder, that kicks this assembly out. So we need it to function this way using our push buttons. So place a base under the cap press cylinder. So you're just doing that manually. Then cylinder 1 extends when push button 1 is pressed, pushing the cap onto the base. And then cylinder 1 retracts when push button 2 is pressed. Cap press cylinder extends when push button 3 is pressed, compressing the base and cap together. And then the cap press cylinder then retracts when push button 3 is released. The eject cylinder extends when push button 4 is pressed, ejecting the cap assembly out of the press station. So eject cylinder will automatically retract when your push button 4 is released because it's a spring return solenoid valve. Again, station device tag, device that it's being wired to. This is your I/O block terminal number. You record it there, and that is all that we will be doing this evening.